We thank you, Father God, for allowing us to make it here safely. We pray, Father God, that in our meeting this morning, everything we do is done for your glory. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Okay, how about the minutes? Has everybody had a chance to look over our minutes from last meeting? Make a motion that we approve. Okay. Second. All in favor? All right. Minutes passed. How about today's agenda? Do we have any changes at all?
Mr. Chairman, unless somebody signed up over that way, we do not have any public comments today.
Okay.
And there will be no need for an executive session. Other than that, the agenda is set.
Okay, thank you. All right then, Jason, come back and.
Wait, let's do a motion.
Oh, yes, okay. Have a motion?
Motion.
Have a second. Okay, all in favor?
Uh,
Okay. All right, Jason, come on, return back to the podium and give us a good report.
What about good? Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, our report for the month of September, we've generated over $2.9 million in revenue, which is a $250,000 decrease from last year. Revenue from resident license sales down 2%. We did see an increase in the velvet deer permit of 13%, waterfowl stamps 3%, and a 3-day freshwater fishing license of 16%. Non-resident license sales, we've generated $1.2 million on last year. So that's where we're seeing our biggest difference with non-resident licenses sold, a difference of $105,000. Permit sales, those numbers are close to where we were last year. It's an increase of $531. And lifetime licenses are down 5% compared to last year. The number of customers that set up for auto renewal in the month of September, we have an increase of 1,513 that set up this year versus last year. And license packages, 7,724 sold in FY25 compared to 7,198.
All right, well, Jason, let me ask you a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So to make sure I heard you right, do we, year to date, overall, are we down or up? What did you say earlier?
We're down.
We're down a bit. What do you think about that?
Like I mentioned, the non-resident licenses, I looked at some numbers yesterday, and we have about 1,900 fewer privileges purchased this year by non-residents alone versus last year.
And for, everybody in the audience, everybody tuning in, one reason that is so important is unlike other agencies in the state, I mean, we totally depend on our license sales and other revenue in order to run the agency. So it's really important.
Yes, sir.
That gets matched by Piven Robertson dollars and others, right?
You're right.
Are those specific licenses to?
Just across the board, your all game license, small game licenses. So on the non-resident end, you have most of them have decreased from last year.
Any more questions? No?
Good.
Okay, thank you so much, Jason. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate it. All right, Russ, you want to come give us a wildlife report?
Mr. Chair, I want to give my time to able to do those 10 funding requests.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'd like to start first. We have 3 of our conservation partners who we have historically provided funding and worked on projects with. One is by phone, so hopefully get them connected. Delta Waterfowl, Mr. Jeff Howell.
I think they're on. He's on mute.
It's on mute, I think, isn't it?
She's mute.
Yes, that's that button right there. It should
There
be.
you go.
Hey, Jeff, you're live.
Hey, Jeff, can you hear us?
Mhm.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you're going to be first on the agenda, so we'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Jeff, go ahead and speak. Tell your story.
Oh, gotcha. Thanks, guys. All right. This is Jeffrey Howell, Delta Waterfowl. I'm VP of Development. I think on the call as well, I've got Matt Schneider, Senior Waterfowl Programs Manager in North Dakota, and Corey Henderson, our Development Grants Coordinator. He's in Colorado. And I apologize sincerely for not being there. I'm in Memphis. I live in Memphis, but I'm actually in Northeast Arkansas. So thank you for allowing us to do this. And thank you, Commissioner. The Delta Waterfowl State of Mississippi relationship has been, epic to say the least. It goes back 21 years, which is, your support has allowed us, in our adopted pothole easy program to flourish in the prairie pothole region. You know, if you got your packet in the, I believe you've got the hard copies in front of you. And before I get to that, I just wanted to mention the reason we're here, right? So Mississippi has supported Delta for many years in our eastern work in the prairies, specifically in southwest Manitoba. But the importance of CPR to Mississippi hunters can't be understated. Come from the PPR. It can be argued that 90% of all Mississippi ducks come from the PPR as well. So DU and Delta protecting at-risk breeding ground habitat and active management production of ducks is crucial to the success of Mississippi hunters. And as you all know, ag land conversion and drainage are the two biggest threats to waterfowl habitat loss. And with partners like Mississippi, we're working to stem the tide. So thank you. If you'll go to your packets, I'm going to move all over the place, and I apologize. And I know there's constraint on time, so bear with me and stop me at any time and ask questions or thoughts or whatnot. Usually, if I get long, tell me to stop. So the first thing I really want you guys to look at, just because we want to know where our ducks come from, right? Maybe in Memphis and growing up hunting the Mississippi Delta is very important to me, and I know it is to everyone in that room. So on page 7, if you'll look at that, you'll see the Manitoba banded Mississippi duck harvest. So our Delta doing work on Mississippi's behalf in Manitoba, and you'll see banded ducks in Manitoba do end up in Mississippi. You'll see the heat map there. And the band recoveries. And the darkest pink there, the most band recoveries, is correlate proteins, Mississippi Delta, which I know a lot of you guys hunt. So, is everybody hearing me okay? Am I moving along with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, perfect. So, all right, so I want to start with the closeout report. So we'll go a little bit backwards here. So guys, if you'll go to page 13. And this is the closeout report for FY23-64. What is Mississippi's money accomplished for Delta waterfowl and for Mississippi duck hunters? We're pleased to report that the objectives for the 23-24 Delta Pothole Award will be exceeded. Good news. The Mississippi investment of $125,000 will secure a total of 136.5 acres. The matching fund will secure an additional 442.5 acres. The last sentence in that paragraph, complementing this work, 2,035 acres were achieved through the installation of 100 new hen houses and the maintenance of almost 2,000 hen houses to support waterfowl production. Side note, hen houses are absolutely Mallard factories, and we all love Mallard, especially down here in Mississippi. So I've got that page with the file numbers for all 5 conservation easements that your money and the matched money accomplished. As you scroll down to 14 and 15, I won't go through those, but those are the accomplishments of each one of those 5 easements that were secured through your support. On page 16, you'll see the areas that we work in, right? So top right corner, you see the red box, that's southwest Manitoba, which is a crucial area to waterfowl production and even more importantly, Mississippi duck hunters. The big map there, the 5 green spots, those are the 5 easements that were secured with Mississippi funding. Pages 17 through 21 is just a topography of each one of those 5 easements that were secured through your support. We can go through those. I'll slow down a little bit here. If I get fast, you'll just tell me to slow down. Page 22 is where the hen houses that I mentioned, that's for the maintenance and installation of over 2,000 hen houses. You'll notice a lot of that's in Manitoba and some of it's in.
Hey, Jeff, why don't you tell them about hen houses? A lot of people around the state may not know what those are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Delta, through active management, Delta accomplishes that through two efficient ways. One is predator management through trapping. The second is hen houses. Hen houses are specifically used by mallards. They're on a pole. They're placed in wetlands, and they're on a pole, and they're elevated above water so predators can't get to them. They have 80% use rate and 75% success rate. So they are producing mallards at an extraordinary rate, and the usage rate is pretty incredible.
What's the net success without hen houses, some of those places?
Well, these are on ground nesting birds, right? So the loss of habitat and predators, you've got less than 10% hatch success rate in many places, right? It takes 15% hatch success rate to maintain current populations. If you can accomplish 25, 30, 40, 50% hatch success rate, duck numbers will skyrocket. So, but in many places, 9 out of 10 nests are failing due to predation and loss of habitat. I get that same page expenditure. Delta was awarded $125,000 from Mississippi. 80% of the investment was used for direct landowner payments to secure 136 plus acres of prime habitat. Match funding leverage from your investment was used to fund $200,000 in landowner payments to secure 442 plus acres of habitat for easements. And when I say easements, these are permanently protected. So once they're there, right? The remaining Mississippi funding is $25,000 and $264,000 in match support. Supported the conservation needs to deliver. The main portion of leverage match fund, $60,000, supported the maintenance installation of those same 2,000 plus hen houses that I mentioned. So working together with Mississippi Delta and our habitat delivery partner, Manitoba Habitat Conservatory in Canada, commonly referred to as MHC, we generated a total project revenue of $625,000, which was more than anticipated. So it's a win-win. And the last page there on the closeout is the expense breakdown. And gentlemen, before I move up to the actual proposal for the new year, again, thanks again, but are there any thoughts or questions on what I know I went through that quickly, you got just looking through that chart, but any thoughts?
I have a question. This is Todd Hairston. So you said that any gain above 15% is a population gain and not just hold. Is that correct?
Correct.
But then 9 out of 10 hatchlings are lost due to predation or habitat loss. Does that mean that naturally, with no work, we're at a 5% net loss?
Depends on the habitat.
Well, I mean,
Absolutely, right? So, and the things that we fight, on the Canadian side, there is no regulation. We have started to lobby and we've instilled some regulation in Canada, but like on the U.S. side, where we have CRP, swamp busters, and many other levers to pull for regulation on wetlands, Canada does not. So there's a tremendous loss of habitat. And habitat's the K factor, right? Without habitat and water, the rest doesn't matter, right? So we've got to have lots of that. And that's where guys like you, or Mississippi and DU and Delta come in to help kind of stem the tide on that loss. But yes, you're correct. As habitat has continued to diminish due to urban crawl, ag conversion, drainage, and many other things, we're fighting the battle that it's all hands on deck. And that's, and as you said, we're, constantly, a 5% deficit as far as maintaining populations, right? Now, when you get lots and lots of water, as you guys know, you know Mississippi Delta, it's been a struggle because of warm temps and lack of precipitation in the prairies. We're in a cycle of drought, that's one in Alberta. And water has started to come back. Came out late this year, but once the snowpacks and the rains come back, then we're going to see a really big increase in populations, right? So, yeah, to your question, Todd, yes, it's we are a bit in deficit, and that's where all partners depend on that.
Todd, just specific, I was in South Dakota this week, and where farmers, farm right up the edge of a pothole, and there's a little thin strip of grass, the net success is very low because predators and other things, and that's where these hen houses really, really, really help. Where you can have a lot of grass, like easements, things like Delta does and Ducks Unlimited, where you have a lot of grassland that's preserved around the potholes, net success gets better. So it kind of depends on these situations. They're targeted, But you're right. If our net success stays 5-10%, population just keeps going down.
I wonder globally with all conservation efforts included, do we monitor net gain above nature or as nature as it is now annually?
Well, Delta and Ducks Unlimited do, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Canada, they do. And it's net gains and losses every year on different species. Is that right, Jeff? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes, sir.
Anybody have any questions? Any more questions? Well, all right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you giving that report and appreciate you providing us this packet as well.
If you don't mind, if you go to the new proposal as well.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So the new, gentlemen, if you'll go ahead and go back to page 3. So what I've just mentioned was closeout for this is the new proposal, and we hope that Delta Mississippi will once again want to partner with Delta. But the new proposal is very similar to the closeout report, and has it been in previous years as well. Like I said, Mississippi's been on board with Delta and the EU for many, many years. Delta specifically 21 years. So for commissioners and staff and friends, and we asked the Mississippi again partner with Delta Waterfowl with an investment of $125,000 that will secure 110 prime habitat acres and will be leverage matched with another $375,000 to secure an additional 283 acres for a total of 393 acres. And with the match dollars, we'll enhance over 1,000 acres by allowing us to install 200 new hen houses and maintenance on another 826 hen houses, all in West Manitoba. And that's what's mentioned there in that on page 3. And I'll quickly go through these ones. I'm just going to mention them. I'm not going to go through them. But gentlemen, on page 4, you'll see Partners in Conservation, and that's Manitoba Habitat Conservancy. They are habitat delivery partners in Manitoba. By using them, all their infrastructure, we're able to pour more dollars, Mississippi dollars, into the page 5 is the project justification. And Todd, some of this will be to your point, to your question, why are we doing this and what will it help? So we won't go through that unless you guys want to, but I'm just trying to move through this fairly quickly so you guys can. Page 6, again, the project area. Again, that upper right corner there, the red box, that's the area that we're working in, Southwest Manitoba. Page 7, again, is that banding recovery page that I mentioned. Page 8 describes all these threats to the waterfowl and PPR that we just mentioned briefly, but just taking it a little bit more in depth. Page 9 is this is the number that duck hunters like to look at, right? So how was the water on the prairies this year? The prairies were fairly tough going into breeding season, a little bit better than previous year, which is good for all of us. And we had a lot of rain come near the end of breeding season, waterfowl breeding season. a note to think about is everything that impacts duck populations happens in the 90 days these ducks are in the prairies, right? 90% of what impacts duck populations is decided after the 90 days they're on the breeding grounds, right? So you want rain. So this was a May 31 map, and it looks blue and green. That's good, right? So the hunters came late. It did help some re-nesting, and more, and just importantly, because they came late, it didn't hit, they weren't wet during the entire breeding season, but this much rain late in the season will help the roots survive, right? So it did help with some re-nesting, and it will help the roots at all. So when you saw 34 million, when you saw the breeding population survey come out a few months ago, it said 34 million, it showed duck numbers are down, and that's due to the drought. But what it doesn't account for, we don't hunt the breeding population survey. We hunt the fall flight. So DPOP, commonly known, the acronym for breeding pop survey, is counts only the adult birds. So it does not count any of the new baby. So with these kind of waters, this kind of precipitation in the prairies late in the breeding season, you guys and me and all of us can be optimistic that I think we're going to have a pretty nice fall flight. Now we gotta cross our fingers for cold weather at the right time to push the ducks into Mississippi. Page 10 is the proposal details that I just hit on about the acres and the leverage match. Again, it'll be, let's see, we'll, on page 11, the total revenue for this project is $500,000. Of this total delta is requesting 125 from Mississippi, as I mentioned, which will be matched 3-to-1 for a total max contribution of 375. Of the total, 450 will be used to perpetually protect acres of wetland and upland habitat with easements. The remaining 50,000 will be used for in-house installations and maintenance activities that I mentioned just previously. On that same page, you'll see the pending match from NALTA and pending match from Delta Waterfowl MHC for a total of 500,000. And you'll see the expenses, how they'll be allocated. And then page 12 is the expense breakdown and the talk of the match funding. So for each dollar from Mississippi, we did additional $3 in matching funds for a total of $4. So your money is leveraged significantly. And so that's the end of the proposal. Are there any thoughts or questions on that part of it?
Jeff, I think we're good. I appreciate the presentation.
Okay. Yeah, and so I just want to finish, guys, by saying thanks to commissioners, staff, friends and audience. I want to say thanks so much for your consideration. It's been huge for us, the Ducks, the Delta, and the Mississippi Duck Hunters. So thanks again. I'm always available for any questions or thoughts.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye. You know, Lynn, we ought to take this out of our book and take this home with us, because this is a really good report. It explains everything, of course, in more detail.
Take what you need there.
Yeah, and particularly that page of comments. That's really good.
The public can't see this stream though, right? Yeah, unfortunately, the public can't see this, but however I can follow along.
Yeah, okay. Okay, all right, how about law enforcement?
Well, Ducks,
Yeah, we still got to finish.
Houston's got a bunch more.
Yeah.
This is
Good Ducks and
I'm
Lemon.
gonna say it's the second time I haven't brought my glasses, so y'all remind me the next time.
Count on
I'm
it.
missing so much.
Yeah.
You borrow mine?
Yeah, no,
We're almost there now.
Yeah.
Thanks for no thanks this late in the game.
Houston has a little bit more.
All right, Houston.
Mr. Chairman, our next conservation partner with Ducks Unlimited Canada is Howie Singer, and I'll turn it over to Howie.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Houston. I'll get my PowerPoint put in here real quick, everyone. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the Commission for having me here today. My name is Howie Singer with Ducks Unlimited Canada. Came down from Manitoba yesterday. I'm the new manager of state partnerships for Ducks Unlimited Canada. Dave Kosterski was my predecessor. Some of you may have met him potentially here in Mississippi in years past. You can see that a bit?
No, I'm trying to get it on this screen
Okay.
here for the commission to see.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
There it is.
There we go.
Got it. Perfect. So yeah, I just wanted to talk briefly, kind of more about the overall partnership program, which was Delta referred to Fall Flights. That's part of the program. That it's an international partnership. Currently, all 48 states are involved in this program. It's run through the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, which is made up of directors, executive directors from state agencies like Mississippi. They've all kind of come on board and realized the importance of sending money to Canada for breeding waterfowl populations. Delta mentioned this, usually between 60 and 70% annually of duck populations breed north into Canada. So this partnership has really understood that that is where breeding ducks are going to come from. And last year, you can see all 48 states besides Alaska and Hawaii were involved in the Fall Flights program, sending over $5 million US to Canada. And both DU and Delta matched that $5 million with their own money. And then that allows the agencies to also access money from the North American Wetland Conservation Act at 2-to-1. So that $5 million US becomes $20 million US. And then with the favorable exchange rate, it was about a 30% increase. So $26 million annually. Last year went up to Canada for habitat conservation work. So the partnership is huge. And the partnership that DU has had with Mississippi, it's one of the oldest almost. It's just almost 50 years. I think 1976 was the first year that Ducks Unlimited and Mississippi partnered together. And it's been a great long-term partnership for the duck hunters in Mississippi and for the breeding ducks in Canada. And just to talk a little bit about what Ducks Unlimited Canada is, we're a science-based organization. We use that research that we've done across the prairies. We did some decadal research projects in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba that helps us understand the big factors that impact breeding waterfowl. And the biggest thing is what happens on the breeding grounds. Like that's where populations are impacted the most. So this image here is the cover of the Prairie Habitat Joint Venture. This is a joint venture with all conservation agencies, provincial management agencies, federal, territorial management agencies across Canada that have kind of come together and laid the groundwork for how, where, and why we deliver habitat conservation in Prairie Canada. DU's led a lot of the research, and that has been supported through the PHCB, and the partnerships have all used this research to understand where to deliver habitat and when and how to deliver it. So this slide here, this was what DUC has requested from the MDWFP. And each year we've asked for $125,000, and similar to Delta, we'll match that with another $125,000 from DU, and then access the NACA, which is doubling that. So that's $500,000 US, and with the 1.3 exchange rate, it's $625,000 Canadian that we're going to use in Prairie Canada for habitat conservation work to hopefully produce a lot of birds and good habitat for duck hunters and birders also in Mississippi. So where we deliver conservation, this map here is a map showing densities of breeding waterfowl in the province of Saskatchewan. That's where we expend the money from Mississippi. All of these areas outlined, the red polygons there, these all have densities of breeding ducks that are greater than 21 pairs per square mile. So the Prairie Habitat Joint Venture has said, these are the areas of focus for waterfowl, the most important areas in Canada for conservation work. So at least 75% of resources go into all of these landscapes, and duck pairs can increase to 70, 80 pairs per square mile, kind of like what you guys talked about a little bit based on the different habitat types.
Do we monitor
And so some of the programs, Delta touched on these. So our habitat protection portfolio, we have land acquisition. So that's actually, we'll buy quarter sections. So quarter section is 160 acres, half mile by half mile. That's kind of the small scale that we deal in. And then it goes up from there. So we'll purchase land in areas that have, critical needs. There's really high breeding pair densities, annual agriculture intensification is immense. We're losing habitat, so we'll buy land there, and we'll actually hold the land title of that so we can manage it for waterfowl, but we also work with farmers and producers, and we allow haying on there a little bit later in the summer after duck nests have hatched, and then also grazing every couple of years on there, but overall is managed for the benefit of waterfowl. And then we do conservation easements. So these are long-term easements. They're called no break, no drain. So all of the wetlands that are on that easement, they can never be drained. And the upland habitat, it would be converted. So annual cropland is not ideal for waterfowl or any nesting birds. So we'll get it seeded to like a perennial forage. Most farmers typically want to use alfalfa because it also benefits cattle, which we work a lot with beef producers. So they can't ever change that to annual cultivation. So once that easement's on there, that's in perpetuity. And then we also do land leases. This is a program where farmers might not be ready to sell their land. They don't want to sign an easement yet. Maybe they're getting a little bit older, thinking about retirement. They'll lease us their land and we can do what we want with it for a minimum of 10 years. And some people will lease it to us for 30 years. And then the agreement portion, 10 to 30-year agreements. So that would be a protection agreement where the landowner says, yeah, we'd like to work with you guys. We'll pay them per acre to conserve that land for a minimum of 10 years. Up to 30 years is more on the wetland side, 10 years is on the upland side. And that will change, we'll then do restoration. So going down one step there, habitat restoration will convert that annually seeded land into perennial cover and keep it that way for 10 years. So that's the minimum term that we can use funding with the North American Wetland Conservation Act. And it really wouldn't make sense because of the cost to do this at, a 1, 2, or 3 year basis. So that 10-year time thing fits in nicely. And then the wetland and upland habitat restoration, I kind of touched on the upland side. That's the conversion from annual croplands to perennial pastures. And then also the wetland side of things. So this is repairing and restoring non-functional draining wetlands. Saskatchewan, where we're delivering a lot of habitat program, has a really high rate of wetland loss. Manitoba and Alberta, the provinces on either side, actually have some decent wetland policies to retain wetlands. And Saskatchewan is currently a pro-drainage province right now. That's what their legislation is, trying to convert land into agricultural land. So what we'll do there, we actually come in, and it's typically smaller wetlands that are drained. So like 10 small 1 acre wetlands might all get drained, and they might flow into a big basin that's a 1 10 acre basin. Well, those smaller basins are more beneficial. 10 1 acre basins are much better for waterfowl than 1 10 acre basin. So Ducks Unlimited will come in, they'll put an earthen dam on these small 1 acre wetlands and restore them. And so we've been doing this for all these years. And about 4 years ago, my previous role, I was in science. We led a program for the last 3 years that's looked at this wetland restoration project. So like, is what we're doing actually beneficial? And we did find that immediately 1 year after wetland restoration, that birds are returning to these restored wetlands in the same rates that birds are using natural wetlands, which was pretty neat to see. And over time, there was a little bit more diversity 5 and 10 years down the road, but 1 year after restoration was actually showing a lot of positive benefits for biodiversity and for waterfowl, both pairs and broods. And then the last one on here, habitat management. So we have a portfolio of projects that are either under our control or that we own of about 1.2 million acres in Saskatchewan. And that's all managed for breeding waterfowl. And I guess I should mention too, lands that Ducks Unlimited Canada owns, they're all open to recreation. It's just non-motorized use. So when you go out to Saskatchewan, you'll see signs that say Ducks Unlimited Canada, foot access only, and you can walk in there, hunt, fish, trap, do whatever you want in there.
Question,
Yeah.
in the United States, they have CRP that preserves grassland, stuff like that. Canada, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't have a program like that really much. And so it has to be done by like DU, people like that, right?
Yeah, there is not any like nationwide program, or I guess prairie-wide program similar to CRP in the US. So
How much habitat's being lost to tiling or draining wet potholes or wetlands and all that kind of stuff?
So I was just looking at Alberta's numbers, and I think it's about 12,000 wetlands annually in Alberta. So my guess in Saskatchewan would be closer to 15,000, 20,000. I don't have that number in front of me, but it's a lot of wetlands
Per year?
per year. That's annually right now. That's the current loss rate produced by some researchers out of Alberta. They go and they do this sample of wetlands every decade in the prairies, and they ground truth that, and they take aerial imagery and compare those data. So they have a pretty good idea of the annual wetland loss rates there. And it's a lot right now. And Saskatchewan is one of the worst because of that pro drainage policy, unfortunately.
So without stuff like this, it all goes away at some point.
I mean, that's kind of the big risk up there. And I think, you've been seeing this before. The time to act is now, right? Land prices are increasing. A couple slides later, I get to that. Saskatchewan currently has the lowest land prices in the prairies, but I gave a presentation to Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries a month ago, and like 2 days before that presentation, an article came out in Canada saying how Saskatchewan's land prices are just lagging. There's no reason they should be lower than Alberta and Manitoba. So, when those land prices go up, it gets a lot harder. It gets more costly to deliver habitat conservation.
We just heard the facts about loss of hatchlings due to predation and habitat, right? Well, if we do things that increase our duck population, but habitat growth does not go along with that, then it just makes the hatches more and more vulnerable to predation as predation grows with the duck population.
If we're not keeping habitat on the ground, then waterfowl populations I would expect would go down in the future. Yeah, absolutely they would. Fewer wetlands, that upland habitat they need, around the wetlands. So go ahead.
To sustainably grow the population, though, we're going to have to sustainably grow habitat, nesting habitat.
One of you had asked a question there at the end of the last presentation, and I made a comment about it. You were asking, I think, about monitoring kind of the impact of habitat. So the Prairie Habitat Joint Venture and all its partners, so Ducks Unlimited, Delta Waterfowl, Manitoba Habitat Conservancy, Nature Conservancy Canada, there's a list of them. We do a 5-year implementation plan, and then at the end of that 5 years, we evaluate the success. So all these different programs I'm talking about, Delta Waterfowl has those, Nature Conservancy does those as well. So we input the amount of acres into this program, and there's some statistical modeling. It's way above my head, but I work with the folks that do it. And what it does, it actually spits out a number of hatched nests in each of the target landscapes. So that map I show Saskatchewan, and it says with the PHJV, we had this increase in nests because, we've conserved grasslands, we've kept wetlands intact. But if we didn't have the Prairie Habitat Joint Venture, we didn't have Delta, MHC, Ducks Limited Canada, this is what it would look like. And it's quite drastic in some of those landscapes where agriculture is really expanded, wetlands are being drained. Like there's a pretty big difference between how many hatch nests you have with the Prairie Habitat Joint Venture partners versus without it. So just more to your point there, yeah. I won't keep you too much more, just a couple more. So we're asking for $125,000 that will match to make 625,000 Canadian to deliver habitat in Saskatchewan. Why fund Saskatchewan? So the majority of breeding ducks that we've talked come from Canada, and out of that, most of the birds are breeding in Saskatchewan, the ones that don't go into the boreal forest into Alaska. Saskatchewan also has the greatest area of high priority landscapes and the wetland loss issues that I mentioned. And then I also mentioned that the lowest conservation land cost currently in Prairie Canada is in Saskatchewan. But most importantly, honestly, for you all, for duck hunters of Mississippi, for birders of Mississippi, is this band return map here. This is the map for mallards. This is basically showing any birds that are harvested in Mississippi, any mallards that are harvested in Mississippi with bands where they originated from. So 31% are coming from Saskatchewan. These numbers aren't corrected for banding effort. So if you're only banding 1% of the population in one area and you're banding 50% in another area, you're going to have a lot more recoveries from that area. And so I don't have any good data for this, but I would speculate that the prairies have seen less and less banding, particularly in the last 5 years since COVID. when US researchers weren't allowed to come into Canada. There wasn't a big contingent in Canada banning waterfowl. So if anything, I think these numbers are skewed to favoring the US states, not the Canadian prairies. But this just shows, the vast importance of the Canadian landscape, both Manitoba and Saskatchewan, for Mississippi waterfowl hunters. And so just to kind of wrap things up here, investing in Ducks Unlimited Canada and Saskatchewan prairies provides really the best bang for your duck. Ducks Unlimited Canada will use your constituent dollars to provide the greatest return to Mississippi duck hunters and birders. And Saskatchewan's currently best jurisdiction to invest in based on land values, conservation need, and ducks in the fall flight coming south. So with that, again, I would just like to say thank you for nearly 50 years of continued conservation partnership, and I hope this continues for the next 50 years for duck hunters and our fellow duck hunters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. One other question. Obviously, we're focused on what's best for Mississippi hunters. That's our role here. But just curious, how many other states actually are you working with to give to the Canada?
So all 48 states are currently invested with Ducks Unlimited Canada as of last year.
All 48.
Yeah. So
except for Hawaii and Alaska.
So the AFA program I was talking about initially, the Fall Flights program, the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, came together in 1991 and said, hey, this is very important. We need to have this continental program in the U.S. that's made up of, Director Posey, other directors from different states that have championed this program and said, guys, girls, we need to get together. We need to fund Canada. So there's been a really strong push in the last, 2-3 decades, working with state agencies, bringing folks like yourselves up to Canada to see the habitat, to understand why it's important. So I think that really strong push. So we've been working on that. I'm a person dedicated. That's all I do every day. Trying to get people interested and excited and to understand the prairies.
Okay, anyone else? Is that it?
Thank you very much for your time.
Appreciate you being here.
Mr. Chairman, we have one more conservation partner, James Calicut with Mississippi State Extension, and then we'll move into the recommendations for funding.
Right.
Thanks, Houston. Get my presentation loaded up here real quickly. All right, can y'all see it on your screen there?
That's good. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Well, first off, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, for allowing me a few minutes to speak with you all today about this Mallard tracking project that we're going to start developing at Mississippi State. It's mostly going to be centered in the North Delta, and we're going to be really focusing on a lot of the early mallards that migrate here. So, folks on WMAs are already flooding up. A lot of private landowners are already flooding up, and there's some mallards that show up this time of year. And so we're really going to be focused on those early migrants that aren't as pushed by weather with this. And we hope to glean a lot of information that's going to be important to better understand and give us a snapshot of how these birds are using the North Delta landscape. It would be important to wetland management, as well as adding on some additional questions in addition to the Mallard tracking project to look at how we can better manage moist soil wetlands and things on WMAs and private lands. So before I get started in the details of the study, I just want to say how much that we at Mississippi State really value our partnership with the agency. We've done a tremendous amount of research, whether that be through federal aid dollars or through state waterfowl stamp funds that have addressed questions that are important to the agency and private landowners across the state, but it's also with graduate students and such has educated a fair amount of the biologists that serve on your technical staff. And I'm no exception to that. I spent several years working alongside Houston here in the waterfowl program, and I came through the waterfowl research program here at Mississippi State. And so, yeah, we have strong roots with the waterfowl program. We work well with Houston and Darren Most all the past waterfowl program biologists have come through our program. And so feel like that we have a good idea and good feeling for what the agency is looking for when they're funding waterfowl research. And I think, especially me as an extension faculty member, I'm very focused on applied research that's going to translate to a landowner or a land manager to improve habitat for waterfowl or upland game birds. And so we want that research to be extremely applied, have strong management implications, but then it's also meaningful to Mississippi waterfowl hunters. Some of the more recent, several years ago, some of the research you all funded that's somewhat related to this project. There was a large radio transmitter project done. Joe Lancaster did that under Brian Davis, and Brian is obviously a co-investigator with me on this project. But we learned a lot of great information from that project. We got a lot of good information about overwinter survival of mallards and some pretty coarse scale habitat use and selection. But as technology has advanced, we really can get a lot more information and really drill down in questions that we probably could not have with the technology at the time of Joe's research. So we're going to be using these satellite transmitters. They will allow us to take locations much more frequently, like say every 20 minutes, it can tell us where these birds are. This picture is of a Drake mallard fitted with one of these GPS transmitters, but we're going to be marking hens, one less susceptible to harvest, so we can make sure we keep collecting some data, and also they're the reproductive unit of the species, and so two good reasons to really focus on marking those hens. But these transmitters have solar panels, so their battery life can be several years. If they survive, we'll get multiple years of information off of them. We're hoping to mark about 50 hen mallards every year for the next 3 to 4 years to track. These units also have an onboard accelerometer, so you can think that it's like a fitness watch. It's strapped on the duck, so it'll actually give us information on what kind of behaviors they're actually engaging in. So we can not only determine what habitats they're visiting, but if they're visiting this forested wetland or this moist soil wetland, how much time are they spending foraging? So it really gives us a really great snapshot of how these birds are moving around the landscape and what they're doing in the wetlands when they're there. And so there's a laundry list of questions that we intend on addressing with this, but I wanted to hit on some of the more pressing ones. Like I said, we'll get some fine scale habitat selection information, so we'll be able to determine if these birds are using certain types of wetlands, maybe disproportionate to their availability on the landscape, indicating to us that they're preferring those wetlands, which will shape, how important, the makeup of landscapes are, or what kind of habitats are very important to these birds. We'll also be able to look at how that use and selection changes throughout the winter in regards to environmental influences or human-induced disturbances. Whether that's, weather, wetland availability, or hunting disturbance. We also, too, one thing that's really great about this is since we'll have very precise locations of where these birds are, say if they're using forested wetlands, we can go to those areas where those birds were and then actually measure characteristics of that forest. And that can help us guide forest management practices and things to improve flooded timber for waterfowl. And we can do that across any of the habitats, be able to go back to places that these birds frequented and be able to measure things about those habitats. We also want to build off of some of the more pressing issues in the waterfowl scientific community. I'm sure you've all heard a lot about genetic issues with game farm and urban mallards, crossbreeding with wild mallards. This is mostly has been kind of an East Coast, but also Great Lakes. Great Lakes are having a lot of issue with this as well. So Great Lakes mallards, and you saw from Howie's, and Jeff alluded to it as well, that we get most of our birds from the prairies, but there are some Great Lakes birds that make their way here to Mississippi. So if we can kind of figure out where some of these birds, especially these early ones that seem to be coming, whether we get cold weather or not. That's what I'm interested in. I want to study the ones that we know are going to come here. Are they going back to the Great Lakes, or give us an idea of maybe how susceptible we here in Mississippi are to this genetic issue? But there's a lot of other questions that we can address here. We can also look at after waterfowl hunting season, how that influences their movements. You know, a lot of people pull their boards and water leaves the landscape and ducks kind of have to pack in on what's left. Kind of gives us the impression that they just kind of showed up, but it's really they're just kind of cramming into what's left. We can really see if those birds are doing that or if we, get more birds. So we can answer a lot of really cool questions, get a really great snapshot of how these birds use the landscape, and it can really inform our management. And lastly, I said we were going to do some additional habitat management research. Obviously, we're going to be busy tracking and trapping birds during the fall and winter, but during the spring and summer, we want to keep working to learn more stuff about how we can improve things for ducks. So we want to investigate a lot of practices of moist soil habitat management that we maybe has not been delved into in the past. Evaluating things, a lot of the questions that Houston and Darren and myself have gotten from landowners of, hey, if I irrigate my moist soil wetland or if I fertilize it, am I going to get a substantial bump in seed production? And so we want to look at things like that and look at actually the cost of applying those so we can provide landowners with some cost benefit to some of these practices, as well as looking at whether or not if we're disking in the fall, disking it in September versus October versus November before we flood up, what's that going to do to the plant response? How are the plant community going to respond in the following year? So looking at a lot of things like that, like I said, there's a whole lot more questions there as well to address. We'll also look at bird response and food availability to a lot of those practices as well. But overall, our objective is to provide the agency's technical staff with better information to manage habitat on WMAs, and then also provide technical guidance to landowners across the state. And so with that, I'll take any questions that you all might have.
The question that when you put the GPS backpack, what's the increased mortality rate of ducks, or do they know?
There's some level of transmitter effect, and so we hope that with the high sample size that we can kind of account for some of that.
Yes, and then because the RFID, the little radio frequency small chips, those don't work as well, I guess.
Which
the little small chips, the RFID, when they put on small birds.
And too, a lot of those tags like that, you're not getting the scale of information that we can get with this. So we can know exactly where that bird is every 20 minutes. And some of those other tags are, depending on which kind they are, they may require the bird to fly past a cell tower to download the data or something like that. So to get this more real-time information and those time activity budgets, these are really the only technology available. And so a lot of folks are looking into any kind of bias or seeing if this increases mortality. But we're, work with what the information we have right now in regards to that.
We so appreciate you doing this study. Is it the other funding? Is Jim Kennedy Foundation doing?
No, it's coming from an anonymous private donation. So a different, just a private gift.
But you ought to ask him, Billy, if he would like to chip in and help with that next time I see him. That's really good.
I think Delta Magazine should contribute as well.
Yeah. We'll welcome all gifts.
I got it. Y'all have any questions down there? Okay.
Thank you so much for your
Appreciate
time.
it. Very good report. We appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, we'll move into the staff recommendations for this year's state waterfowl stamp funds. I'll just do this like we've typically done before and go through the line items, but certainly welcome to stop anytime for questions. And we can. But the first item you'll see in the recommendations there is Ducks Unlimited and DU Canada, $125,000 for the continued waterfowl breeding habitat conservation in Saskatchewan that Hallie covered. Just want to remind you and point out that state contributions are leveraged with DU internally and with NACA, other partners. So these funds are essentially turned into 625,000 Canadian dollars by the time all the matching contributions are folded in for breeding areas that are important to Mississippi ducks. The next line item is Delta Waterfowl, also $125,000 for their adoptive pothole program, which is perpetual wetland easements and upland easements in Manitoba, which Jeff spoke about on the phone earlier. And again, the same applies with state funds being matched with other contributions, and then the Canadian exchange there. So we're able to really multiply those dollars for good conservation work on the breeding grounds. The next line item, Mississippi State University Waterfowl Research, which James just covered, $30,000 recommendation there for year one of a multi-year study. The way we typically done these is we have if the funding is approved and we have the partners come back with kind of an update going into year two or subsequent years and take those a year at a time. But this would help to supplement funding that's already been privately established to go into this first year of this research project. The next line item is quite a bit bigger than it has been in past years, but that's because we've got some other funding sources that we're able to use duck stamp funds to match. So the WMA Wetland Management and Enhancement Projects line there is $475,000 for the year. Those are not necessarily all projects that are identified. There, quite a bit of that money is for an as-needed basis when we get into, especially this time of year, we're starting to pump water on wildlife management areas, pumps go out, things like that. We're able to quickly react and be able to get back online and be able to provide that valuable public hunting habitat on wildlife management areas. Also, a large part of that is a project through the Mississippi Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund, and this money is leveraging those dollars, so it's providing some state match on those dollars that are coming from that fund. The next item is a continuation of our private land wetland infrastructure assistance program, what landowners commonly know as the PIPES program. It's gone through multiple entities over the years. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has been involved and funded it in the past. Other organizations locally, Delta Wildlife, Ducks Unlimited, and several others have been involved. But what this is a competitive program for private landowners. We go out and do a site visit on property for interested landowners on eligible lands that are not enrolled in other conservation programs like CRP and WRP. And we're able to put them into a ranking criteria, and we kind of just go by the best scoring properties and go down our list until our pipes run out with the amount of money that we have going into the program. But it provides water control structures to provide valuable waterfowl habitat across the state on private lands. And so that program has been very successful, and we look forward to continuing that. Next line item is our publicly very popular aerial waterfowl surveys, so $25,000 to continue covering those costs. Delta Wildlife has also been involved funding a portion of that program, and they may continue to do so as well. But time is coming up. It's about time to get back. We'll be starting back our November aerial waterfowl surveys. We'll fly twice in January. The next line item is waterfowl program travel at $9,000. This is sort of as needed. Meetings come up, symposiums come up sometimes that are not necessarily planned ahead of time in normal travel budgets. And so this is not necessarily an item that would be expended, but it's just there as needed for meetings that may come up. Then the next line item is typically an annual cost with waterfowl trapping and banding supplies, things like replacing rocket nets, buying rocket charges for capturing wood ducks, banding supplies, banding pliers, things like that for staff to be able to use in the field to accomplish those goals. The next item is Mississippi Flyway Council annual dues and cooperative projects as part of the Mississippi Flyway with other states and provinces. We have a lot of annual programs, annual projects that are going on, monitoring different waterfowl populations, working on habitat projects. And so those costs are broken down typically by either the number of birds that states have in the harvest or equally divided among the states that are involved in those projects. And then the last item, another very, very popular program we're proud to continue is the annual Gunnar Palmer Youth Waterfowl Hunting and Education Camp. At $5,000, we've had some really great partnerships developed with Ducks Unlimited. And this year with Drake Waterfowl, they're going to be coming in and helping us with providing some items for the campers as well. And so really great, intensely educational program. We typically select youth that don't have much or any hunting experience. And so it's a really good time to get them out during that youth waterfowl hunting weekend in February and get them exposed and introduced into hunting. So I know that was a whirlwind there, but those are the staff recommendations. I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. All right, you made a motion?
I'll make a motion that we close these.
Okay, we have a motion from Gary. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Okay, got a second, so all vote in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay. Want to move forward to enforcement now? Okay. All right, Colonel Carter, come on up and there you are. Tell us about it.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good morning. Law Enforcement Access Report for the month of September. And they stand as following. We'll first start with our license compliance checks. For the month of September, there were a total of 505 citations issued. Our top five being was 87. No license was number one. Number two was unlawful possession at 69. Number three was baiting at 66. Number four was no federal stamp at 41. And number five was unplugged gun at 39. On our next page, this is one of our officers that was observing this dove hunting activity on a field there in Jefferson County during our dove season. The next following page, our officers in Hancock County encountered a dove hunt in a field there in Hancock County where hunters had killed 11 cattle egrets and 1 crow. The subjects were charged for the violation on that field, and the field was baited. On the next page, this officer in Warren County, Officer Thrash, received information of an individual having baby alligators in a cooler. Officer received a call from the Deputy Schorn, the deputies in the county, as they initiated a search warrant. The officers came upon the cooler with the possession of these gators, and the officer was called, and the officer initiated the investigation, and the subject was charged for 4 counts of illegal possession of alligators. That case also is still pending. On our next page, and officers in Lee County located a missing person and rendered aid. We received a call from the sheriff department there during the time this individual went missing. Him and his wife, apparently the gentleman had some medical conditions. We received a call requesting services of our SRT. The officers went out and initiated the search and found the gentleman the next day, and you can see that they were rendering aid to him, and the gentleman came out fine. Thank God we found it. Officers are working MSSP events. This is one of the events there at MacGyver. We have several of these events going on starting this week, as well as the remaining through December. So our officers are going to be in full force helping and assisting with the MSSP program. It's going off real good. On the next page, Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks Law Enforcement Special Response Unit, the SRT, was deployed at 7 a.m. 0700 that morning on October 17th to North Carolina to assist communities in response to severe damage associated with Hurricane Helene. After the request of the state after the request of the state of North Carolina, Emergency Management Assistant Compact, which is EMAC, we dispatched 25 of our SRT personnel to provide the security. From Captain Westerfield, who's our SRT commander. Everything is going according to schedule. So we're doing a great job up there. We're getting a lot of feedback from not only the locals, but from the authorities there as well, saying that our guys are doing a great job. On the last page is our shooting ranges on our customer counts from the September the 15th to October the 15th. MacGyver reported with 1,575 customers, Turcotte with 1,369 customers, and McHenry with 948 customers. At this time, Mr. Chairman, we have approximately 2 reinstatements. At this time, I'm going to call these gentlemen up. First individual is Mr. Tyler Breland. Mr. Breland was charged with headlighting in Pearl River County. This incident of the violation happened December 9th, 2021. This officer acquired the information basically through receiving a call and through technology, how we really found out how this incident occurred. The officer had gotten a report of some illegal activity of headlighting that was actually done in a boat. After the officer initiated the investigation, got a warrant to dump the phone, discovered that Mr. Breland was also one of the individuals involved in this violation. So I'll let him tell you the rest of the story, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Tyler Breland. I'm 24 years old. I'm from Poplarville, Mississippi, and come here before y'all today in hopes of getting my license reinstated. So, to kind of tell y'all a little bit about what happened, those couple nights that I had went spotlighting on the river. It was on the Pearl River. We were in a boat, and the river was at I believe it was at 18.5 foot, which is no hunting. Not supposed to hunt past the river stage at 18 foot on the Pearl River. And anyway, I went 3 nights in a row spotlighting in a boat on the Pearl River, spotlighting for deer. And was never caught red-handed. My friend had his phone. They took his phone and went through it and found incriminating evidence against me. And that's how I was charged with 3 counts of spotlighting, 3 counts of trespassing, and a count of conspiracy.
So what happened on those 3 nights? What did y'all shoot and what happened?
To be honest with you, we didn't kill anything. My friend shot 1 time and he missed the deer. But other than that, we really didn't see much. Just went up and down the Pearl River, just spotlighting from the boat.
Colonel, do you have anything to add to this? Is that what happened?
That is actually how it happened, sir. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question though? I'm trying to figure out, Mr. Breland, on August the 10th, 2021, you had called my office asking to have your gun returned. And I'm not understanding that if the violation happened in December, were you charged with headlighting before the December case?
No, sir. So that was during turkey season. I had a officer. I had stopped. It was during turkey season. We had stopped on the side of the road, and I was using the bathroom, and we went to the house, and I had an officer. It was Brian Dechamp. He pulled up, and he confiscated my gun, my phone. The guy that was hunting with me, his phone. And they tried saying that we were hunting from a public road, had loaded guns. He confiscated my gun, and we went to court over that. And I think it was a remand to file. Nothing ever came about that. I got my gun back.
Were there any other game and fish violations.
A little over a year ago.
What was that about?
Yeah. What was that?
Turkey charge, turkey?
Yes, sir. I
No,
did.
not the hunting from the road, but an additional one to that.
Yes, sir. It was I didn't turn the bird in.
Oh.
And there was one other charge.
You didn't report the bird?
No, sir.
You say there's one more charge?
Yes, sir. It was I didn't have a license either.
Pretty much a rule follower, aren't you? Let me note on that violation also occurred, that possession and also hunting during revocation.
Anybody have a comment?
So I guess our role is, I mean, none of us are perfect, but is that obviously habitual? There's multiple deals here.
Yes, sir.
Reporting of turkeys, a lot of people don't do it, unfortunately, and we hope that'll get better, in the future with electronic tagging and some things, but so that's not uncommon. But have you learned your lesson? Tell us what you've learned. Tell us why you'll be different going forward.
Well, first of all, with the spotlighting, that's very dangerous. You could potentially kill somebody or harm someone, or it's not safe. It's not the right thing to do. You should be wanting to be you should want to do the right thing regardless. Also, out of the whole spotlighting ordeal, I never killed a deer. Went to court. I paid close to $8,000 in lawyers and court costs and tickets, and it's not worth it.
But were the 4 headlining charges on 4 separate occasions, or is they all on one occasion?
It was all on one occasion.
The more questions we ask, the more information comes forward. Colonel, is there anything else we're missing in this?
No, sir. Basically, everything he said, what Attorney Brown.
Because we started out just talking about this one thing, and then it's kind of interesting how other things sort of develop.
So you said hunting during revocation.
Yes, sir.
That was during this revocation.
That's correct. Correct, yes, sir.
Is the next person?
He was not charged. He was passed at the file on the revocation, according to the courts. But I think they did charge him on the other violation. I think what was it, the possession?
Yes, sir.
Possession charge. That's what he was charged.
Possession of
The turkey.
the turkey.
During
Okay, not,
revocation,
yeah.
yes, sir. He was charged for 3 counts of headlighting, but they remanded 2 to the file, and they charged him for 1.
It's not related to the next James here from Pearl River County. Was he with you? Is it the same deal?
No, sir.
That's separate. Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's enough. You guys were together.
Yes, sir.
During revocation. When did you say that was?
I don't have the date, but it was.
Was it in the last 12 months?
Probably, yes, sir. It was doing probably 2021.
Oh,
somewhere in
so
that
it's
time
in there.
frame, if I'm correct on that turkey violation, but it was during the time he was under revocation.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, I know what it's like to follow rules that I don't agree with. But I've learned the hard way in my life that doing so builds character, and it's taught me how to live a more enjoyable life, peaceful, and doing the things that are right. My recommendation is to reinstate, but I'll tell you this, don't go out and do it anymore. Not just because of the law, but for yourself. It's better to live that way.
All right, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, the next individual we have is Mr. Damian Pipkins. This violation occurred in George County. The arresting officer was Officer Munter. Officer received a report of some illegal hunting activity there in the county. In said location, an officer noticed a vehicle traveling slowly down the road. The officer noticed that the individual was shining the light into the field. The officer managed a way to get behind the vehicle, and during the following of the vehicle, the occupant in the vehicle steady continued to shine. The officer then initiated the stop without any incident, and I'll give Mr. Pipkin the opportunity to tell the rest of the story.
Good morning. I apologize. I didn't know the attire was, I've never been in a situation where I wouldn't wear a jacket and hoodie. I come straight off the night shift. Drove 3.5 hours beer this morning. What Mr. Carter just said is exactly what happened. I can't remember the exact time. My brother said, hey, we just saw a deer on Man Butler's land, family friend. You want to come help me? First, I told him no. Back on track, though, I did go with him, so I'm 100% guilty of my actions. We went. My brother's vehicle, my brother's gun, my brother's light. We waited the land horseshoe, and grew up there my whole life. Know the land real well. We shined the first part. The deer was gone. So we drove and just out of curiosity shined the second part. As soon as we shined, the blue light to us, and so you know when your heart sinks automatically out there, in there. We get pulled over, and I don't remember the young guy's name, but I know Mr. Kevin extremely well. Been in church with him my whole life. Grew up with him. So I told him that, exactly what happened. We stopped. We admitted to what we was doing was wrong. And he asked us, what we done. I told him just the first time. Just the first spot we shined right here. This and then two separate parts. We cooperated, and I'm counting for my actions. That's what I told Mr. Kevin. I'm blessed with a good job. I'm a process chemical operator for Chevron Refinery, Pascagoula, Mississippi. The money wasn't the issue. The issue was the embarrassment I brought to myself, but just to my family. And I got two little kids who I teach to do the right thing at all times. I was raised the right way to do conservation. I donate money to the Veterans Fund. I've done 15 years in the Army, 3 combat tours, another tour to Kuwait recently. And I broke the law, so this is where I'm at, and I apologize to y'all for having to meet y'all this way. And that's all.
Colonel, have you got anything else, or is that the end of that story? Any questions, comments, vote? Which one do?
We appreciate you coming in. How much does it cost you?
I don't really know. I know.
It's $250 reinstatement, I see.
I also thought it was $500, but I think we paid a little over a couple $1,000, nothing much for the fine. Then I think I got to pay today, well, I thought it was $500. Everyone told me I ain't too sure. And I said, the money
That's what it says on there.
It's the embarrassment. That was the worst part for me.
All right,
Motion to reinstate.
got a motion to reinstate, have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? All right.
Mr. Chairman, that is law enforcement's report for this month. Any questions?
We've
Is
got
Yellow
one.
not showing up?
He did not show.
That's James Thoreau.
Thoreau,
No.
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I got it. Okay.
There's this question, Jerry, so what does the law say as far as our obligation to reinstate?
We don't
You
have.
don't have an obligation to
There's
reinstate.
not obligation.
Yeah, you have the ability to reinstate, but you do not have to reinstate.
Right, that's what I just was wanting to articulate that.
It's not an automatic thing by any
Yeah.
stretch of the imagination. You have somebody that comes forth with, multiple violations or something, and regardless of what they say, if their actions speak louder than their words, you are not obligated to reinstate.
And that's happened one time in 10 years since I've been on the board. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you so much, Carol. We appreciate everything you do.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you for your support.
Okay, Lynn, let's see.
You got no wake.
Yeah, we got a, 2.7, we got to let you go over.
Who's going, Drew?
I think that's right.
Doug, you got that one?
Briefly, Mr. Chairman, last month I came to y'all with a resolution from Jackson County asking for us to declare a no-wake zone. And they defined the boundaries of the no-wake zone on Bluff Creek. And we have since put that in rule format, and I'm presenting that to you today to consider for adopting. And then we'll follow with the Secretary of State as a proposed rule.
Yeah, motion.
Yeah, anybody have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, got a motion, second. All in favor? All right, any opposed? Okay, Lynn, our next commission meeting is Thursday, November 14th.
That's correct.
And we'll have it here.
We have here at Jackson headquarters on Thursday, November 14th. We'll have an education session beginning at 9 and a regular session beginning at 10 a.m. And we, as I stated earlier, we no need for executive session, so a motion to adjourn would be appropriate at this time.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn? Okay, have a second? Second, all in favor? All right, we is adjourned.